There are moments in life that break a family forever. There are moments that shatter faith in justice. And there are moments that make the world question what is true and what is unimaginable. This is one of those moments. The year was 2015. The place was Vallejo, California, a quiet, seemingly safe town far from the chaos of major cities. Denise Huskins, a young woman with dreams, plans, and a life ahead of her, vanished without a trace. Her boyfriend, Aaron Quinn, claimed what happened next was a nightmare, one so surreal that even law enforcement struggled to believe it. Denise and Aaron were in their home late on a night that started like any other. The lights were dim, the world outside quiet, and neither expected fear at their door. Suddenly, chaos. Aaron later told investigators masked intruders had broken in. They drugged him, bound him, and forced him into submission. Then, they took Denise. Aaron said he woke hours later, dazed and frightened, with no sign of the attackers. He immediately called 911 and reported Denise missing. But instead of help, he was met with suspicion. Police interrogators looked at Aaron like a suspect, not a victim. His story sounded unbelievable, almost like fiction. Masked intruders, drugged and tied up, a ransom demand. Detectives couldn't reconcile the story with the evidence they had. Why would professional criminals choose a suburban house in Vallejo? Where were the signs of forced entry? Why were there no witnesses? Aaron insisted he was telling the truth. And then came the ransom message. A strange email arrived. Cryptic, demanding, eerie. "They have her. Pay the price," it said. But there was no clear ransom amount, no return address, no sign of Denise. Police were frustrated. They called it a hoax, a wild story. Maybe a lover's quarrel gone wrong. But followers of this case knew better, because later evidence began to support Aaron's account. Security footage, phone records, unusual timestamps, and strange activity around Denise's last known location created a trail that didn't add up to a simple disappearance. The internet erupted. Crime forums, Reddit, YouTube true crime channels, everyone was dissecting every clue available. Viewers noticed inconsistencies in police reports and contradictions in statements from law enforcement. People compared it to Gone Girl, the mystery novel turned Hollywood film, because the mechanics of fear, disappearance, and public distrust were eerily similar. Denise's family begged for answers. Every day without Denise was agony. The community rallied, protests formed, and hashtags trended across platforms, calling for serious investigation. Yet, even with public pressure mounting, official sources remained skeptical. Some detectives thought Aaron staged the kidnapping to cover up a personal secret. Others believed the whole event was a fabrication designed for attention. But weeks passed, then months, then years, and still no definitive resolution. Then the twist that horrified millions. Denise suddenly reappeared. She walked back into her home more than 48 hours after her disappearance. She was alive. She was coherent. She was safe. But nothing about her story was simple. Police initially called her return suspicious. Why did Denise come back alone? Why would someone who was allegedly kidnapped return without ransom paid? Denise tried to explain. She was shaken, traumatized, trembling, her eyes hollow from fear. But when detectives pressed her for details of what happened during those missing hours, the answers were vague. Deliberately so, it seemed. Aaron insisted Denise had been held by force.
But without clear evidence of assault or incarceration, police couldn't confirm it. Public opinion split into two overwhelming sides. One group stood with Denise and Aaron, believing them absolutely. A second group argued the entire story was a deception. Accusations flew. Internet sleuths dug through every document, every interview, every timeline. Some claimed the police bungled the investigation. Others said Denise was protecting someone. And a few even whispered of a psychological break, that maybe Denise had imagined parts of her disappearance. Whatever the truth was, it was buried beneath conflicting reports, law enforcement errors, and explosive public speculation. Documentaries like American Nightmare recounted the case in vivid detail, interviewing both Denise and Aaron, detectives, advocates, and journalists alike, to untangle the web of mystery behind an event that captivated a nation. To this day, the case remains controversial. Was it a genuine kidnapping by unknown masked intruders? Was it a misinterpreted panic? Was the truth something darker, something no one wanted to admit? The answer still eludes investigators. Denise's disappearance and return became more than a crime story. It became a cautionary tale about doubt, bias, and the terrifying gap between what we believe and what we want to be real. And every time someone vanishes without explanation, people still ask, were masked figures really there in Vallejo that night? Or was the horror only in the eyes of those left behind?
Imagine walking into a quiet university library, the kind of place where silence feels sacred, and the only sound you usually hear is the turning of pages and the occasional shuffle of a book sliding across a table. But on one late November afternoon in 1969, in a quiet corner of the Patty Library at Pennsylvania State University, silence was shattered in the worst possible way. Her name was Betsy Aardsma. She was 22 years old, a graduate student, intelligent, focused, and with her whole life ahead of her. On November 28th, she had gone to the library to do what thousands of students had done before: study, read, prepare for her future. There was nothing unusual about her appearance or her plans that day. But then, something unimaginable happened. It was around 4:30 p.m. when she walked into the stacks, a maze of towering shelves and narrow aisles, a place that felt safe, almost comforting to anyone who had spent hours there studying. Friends later said she seemed calm, collected, but no one anticipated the horror that was about to unfold. Witnesses said that within seconds of entering the stacks, a man appeared behind her and stabbed her once, quickly and deliberately, in the chest. Witnesses who heard the commotion turned and saw blood, confusion, and terror in the eyes of those around her. Betsy staggered forward only a few steps before collapsing to the floor, where she lay, dying, surrounded by the very books she had come to study. The attacker vanished within moments. No running footsteps, no frantic escape through the doors, just a blur of movement, like a ghost disappearing into thin air. Students and faculty rushed to help, calling police and paramedics. Betsy was still conscious for a short time, gasping for air, but the wound was severe. She died before she ever fully understood what had happened. Investigators were baffled. There was no weapon left behind, no physical evidence, no description from reliable witnesses. The library cameras were primitive at best. No footage captured the brutal act. Detectives combed through every possible lead. They interviewed hundreds of students who had been in the library that afternoon. They searched for suspects with motive,
opportunity, or even connection to Betsy. They profiled those who had been spotted near the stacks around the time of the murder. They tracked down every whisper of rumor, every fleeting sighting of a suspicious figure. Nothing added up. No jealousy, no romantic entanglement, no signs of threat in her past. Nothing that could explain why someone would attack her so mercilessly in such a public place. Theories emerged. Some believed it was a random act of violence, an intruder taking advantage of an open campus, a silent library, and a young woman alone among the stacks. Others suspected someone she may have known, someone jealous or angry, someone with secrets they wanted buried. Some even whispered that the killer might have slipped away unnoticed because they were familiar. Someone the campus community didn't perceive as a threat. Despite dozens of suspects questioned, polygraphs administered, and forensic tests performed, the case went cold. And then colder still as the years passed by without progress. Every anniversary of Betsy's death brought renewed interest and speculation. True crime enthusiasts analyzed the case. Criminal profilers offered theories, and detectives occasionally reopened the file in hope of breakthroughs. But like a ghost in the stacks, the murderer left behind no trace that could be conclusively followed. To this day, the murder of Betsy Aardsma remains one of the most haunting, unsolved crimes in American college history. A young woman with dreams cut short, slain in a place built for learning and growth, a place meant for peace. Some who study the case say the assassin struck quickly, surgically, and with chilling precision. Others argue the killer was never meant to be identified, that fate itself wove him into the quiet fabric of campus life, invisible and untraceable. And decades later, when students pass through those same stacks, some say they feel a chill, an unexplained cold spot near the very row where Betsy took her last steps. Because the thing about true horror, real horror, is that it doesn't always come from the darkness outside. Sometimes it comes from the quietest places we believe are safe. And in the case of Betsy Aardsma, the stacks still hold their silence.
In a quiet Baltimore neighborhood in 1969, the community believed in routine, faith, and safety. Families walked the streets without fear. Children played in yards. Schools ran as they always had. But behind the walls of a Catholic high school, a secret was growing. One that would shock the nation and remain unsolved for decades. Her name was Sister Catherine Cesnik. She was a nun, a teacher, and for many, a symbol of guidance, discipline, and trust. At 26 years old, Catherine had a dedication to her students that went beyond the classroom. She cared, she listened, and she noticed things others overlooked. On November 7th, 1969, Catherine left her residence to visit a friend. She never returned. The first signs of something wrong were subtle. A missed dinner, a friend calling the convent. Then, a report to the police that a beloved nun had vanished. Initially, police treated the case as a missing person. A young nun in her 20s, with no enemies? Surely she would turn up in a few days. But days turned into weeks. Rumors began circulating. Whispers from students who had attended Archbishop Keogh High School suggested Catherine had seen something she shouldn't have. Something terrible. Something that someone powerful wanted hidden. Then came the discovery that shook the city. On January 3rd, 1970, Catherine's body was found in a remote garbage dump, frozen and battered. Her death was caused by blunt force trauma to the head. Her hands were bruised, her body left like a message, an unspeakable act of violence against someone who had only tried to help.
The investigation began. Detectives combed through her life, her school, her colleagues, her students. They questioned everyone, but the leads were thin, inconsistent, and often contradictory. The crime scene provided little forensic evidence. In 1969, DNA testing did not exist. Fingerprints were limited, witnesses were scarce. The public was horrified. How could a nun, dedicated to teaching and caring for young women, be murdered and dumped in such a place? What secret could have motivated such a violent crime? As the investigation deepened, allegations surfaced. Several former students came forward with claims that abuse had occurred at the high school. Catherine had been privy to these confessions. She had seen the evidence, she had heard the stories, and she had confronted those involved. Many believed her murder was not random. It was retaliation. It was punishment for knowing too much. The case took on a new dimension. Beyond the murder itself, it became a story of secrecy, cover-ups, and institutional power protecting its own. Police struggled against influential figures in the church who denied allegations, obstructed interviews, and minimized the claims of witnesses.
Decades passed. The murder of Sister Catherine Sesnick remained unsolved. Her name became synonymous with a haunting mystery, a story where justice had been delayed but never forgotten. In 2017, the Netflix documentary series The Keepers reignited public interest. Investigators, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts began reviewing old evidence, re-interviewing witnesses, and uncovering new leads that had been overlooked. They highlighted the courage of those who spoke up after decades of silence. They examined the chilling fact that Catherine had been silenced, not because she was guilty, but because she had tried to protect others. The horror of this story isn't just in the murder. It's in the realization that people who try to do the right thing, those who care for others, can be destroyed for their honesty. It's in the shadow that remains over the community decades later. It's in the unanswered questions. Who killed Sister Catherine Sesnick? Was it someone acting alone? Or were there others hidden in plain sight, ensuring that the truth never came to light? Every year, investigators revisit the files, hoping technology will uncover what was once impossible. Every year, students and alumni whisper her name, remembering her kindness, her dedication, and the tragedy that ended her life too soon. And every time a viewer learns her story, the chill spreads, the same silent fear that gripped those who knew the truth in 1969. Because in this case, horror isn't just the act itself, it's the silence that followed. It's the fear that someone, somewhere, knows what happened and got away with it. Sister Catherine's story remains a cautionary tale. Even in places of faith and learning, darkness can hide in the shadows, waiting for someone brave enough to notice, someone bold enough to speak out, and someone unlucky enough to pay the ultimate price for it. And in the quiet corners of Baltimore, if you walk past the old school buildings, some say you can still feel it. The presence of injustice left unresolved, a ghost of courage punished, and a mystery that refuses to die.